YouTube, how's it going? And welcome back to KitchenTableMeta. Now in this video, we're going to cover all of the red battle card spoilers that I didn't get a chance to do earlier in the week, so I apologize again for that, guys. I know that this video is always, pretty long because there's usually a lot of battle cards and I go into super depth about them. So I'm going to try to, go even faster this week and get this done because I am so sorry that I'd spend so much time on these cards. I just felt like usually this video goes like 50 minutes. I just feel like it's too long and I'm going to try to cut it back a little bit. But you know me, I'll probably talk and it'll probably be an hour and a half long. So anyway, let's get right into it and talk about the first card, which is Relentless Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku. Now this is a 4-cost, 20,000 double strike attacker with a permanent effect that says this card cannot be KO'd by your opponent's skills. And it also has a pretty cool auto that says when you play this card until the beginning of your next turn, this card gains 5,000 power. Now, this is a fantastic 4-drop. I always talk about the 4-drop curve, which is 4-cost, 20,000, double strike. And this card has that, but it also has a really cool auto ability that gives it plus 5,000, so it turns into a 25,000 attacker on your turn when you play it and your opponent's turn. So that makes it a lot harder for, if you play this out and attack your opponent's leader, it makes it harder for them to play out one of the stronger, or not stronger, but another 4-cost 20,000 attacker and trade with it. They can't. And to make it better for this Goku, he also cannot be KO'd by your opponent's skills, so he doesn't die to Beerus, he doesn't die, to any of the other 4-drops that we see that could really pressure this guy like Vegeta. So this is really, really cool. It's a very meta 4-drop, and it's actually, I think, probably one of the best 4-drops we've seen because of that. Now, he can also trade up as well, which makes him even better. So you can, if you play him on 4, you can use them to, attack a Gotenks, for example, and kill Gotenks. So he's just a very, very solid card. In my opinion, probably one of the best 4-drops we've seen. Probably the best 4-drop in red, and for that reason, I'm going to give him a 3-star and think he's an absolutely fantastic card. Now, next up, we have Super Saiyan Son Goku, which is the 2-cost 15,000 vanilla attacker. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this guy, but he is, the 2-cost 15,000 attackers, are strong. They do have the ability to pressure the leader on turn 2 even after they awaken, which is something you should always keep in mind. The fact that he is a Goku is also important because this makes it so, he works with Vegito and some other abilities as well. He's also a Saiyan, so he works with the 4-cost counter card. He's not as bad as what, some of the other 2-cost cards, but honestly, the game is starting to evolve to a spot to where, these guys probably aren't quite good enough. So for that reason, I'm going to give him 1 star and think that he's, again, 2-cost 15 vanilla beater. Not bad, not great. Next up is Miraculous Comeback Ultimate Gohan. Now, this is a 6-cost double strike permanent. Actually, we already covered this guy. I'm sorry. I don't know why the super rares on here. I guess they updated the list. My bad. Next up is Fully Trained Son Gohan. Now, this is a 2-cost 10,000 attacker that has a permanent ability that says each Son Gohan adolescence in your hand gains evolve 2 red and 1 on a Son Gohan adolescence. Now this is a pretty cool card, and honestly this card is there to make you be able to get out your Son Gohan adolescence a little bit quicker. Now this card is like all the other cards that do this as well. There's a medical that does the same type of thing. Is very powerful and has the potential to essentially let you get out strong threats before you're supposed to. Now the downside of this card is that when you play it out, if your opponent kills it or pressures it in any way, this card can die to Goldo, for example. It feels like you're just kind of wasting a card. And so I feel like this effect is very powerful, however, it is very hard to get off. And because of that, guys, I'm just going to give this a 1 star. I feel like it's not quite good enough. We don't really have a huge range of adolescents that we want to evolve. And then most of them that we do want to evolve already have evolve on them. So it just seems like kind of a redundant card currently, but could, again, get better later. Next up, we have Leap to the Future Son Goten. Now, this is a 3-cost 15,000 attacker with active main. Place this card and 1 other card from your hand in the drop area. Choose up to 1 Gotenks with power 25 or less power from your deck and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Now, this is an awesome card. I think this card is a lot better than what it's been shown. I feel like people aren't giving this card enough credits. Now, there's a Vegito promo that I think is actually really, really strong that I talked about in my videos. That is actually, one of the I guess things you have to do to get him out is you have to have a Son Goten in your drop area. And so this card is pretty cool. It lets you play him out. You can attack your opponent's leader or, try to kill another battle card and then use this active main ability to go get a Gotenks, which is already one of the best battle cards that we currently have. Now, the new 25,000 Gotenks is super strong, and there's also the current green one that we use. I mean, this isn't color restricted either, and so I think this card is really, really good. It's a fantastic tutor, and honestly, guys, there's very few times in a card game where a tutor isn't going to be playable in some fashion or in some deck, and so for those reasons, guys, I want to give this a 2-star and think he's a fantastic battle card that you should be pretty excited about. Next up is Ultimate Evil Dark Prince Vegeta. This is a 4-cost, 2-red, 25,000 attacker with double strike, and has the auto, when this card KOs your opponent's battle card, place cards from the top of your deck under Majin Buu Seal Ball, and there are 5 cards. When there are 5 cards under Majin Buu Seal Ball. I'm sorry, until there are 5 cards. Okay, so this guy's pretty interesting. He's a 4-cost, 25,000 attacker, which is strong, right? That's over the curve. Now, he doesn't have a very relevant auto ability unless you are playing the Majin Buu. I guess unless you're playing the Majin Buu line or whatever. So I guess if you're playing Bibbidi, that's kind of what he's supposed to do, which makes sense. He's like the Majin Vegeta. It fits that theme. Now, what I kind of predict with this card is it probably won't see much play in that fashion. I think this auto ability could very well just be blank. And I think just having a 4-cost 25,000 attacker is actually pretty strong, and it's probably good enough to have him see play in some fashion in some decks. He's probably pretty good in Vegito. Again, you can get him out pretty easily. And honestly, he's just a strong 4-cost threats. And he's also a really good threat to play into Cold Bloodlust, which is what I really like. You play him out. If they Cold Bloodlust him, that sucks. You don't get your double strike for that turn. But it's also wasting, in my opinion, the Cold Bloodlust for other powerful threats that could be in your deck. Like Beerus's and the other Vegeta, the Furious Heal Vegeta and Furious Attacking Vegeta. I always get that guy's name wrong. I feel like it's Relentless Attacking Vegeta, but I'm sorry. Anyway, so. I think that's where this guy's going to be key. I think he might see play in Vegito decks. I think, honestly, just a 4-cost 25,000 double striker is probably a little underrated. I feel like people probably aren't going to understand how powerful that is until they start getting it played against them. And they're like, ah, crap, I actually have nothing to kill this guy. And again, if you use like your Beerus's and stuff to kill him, then you just save your other bigger threats, for this. So I think he's a perfect card for that reason. I don't think he's super overpowered. I don't think he's good enough for a 3-star, but I think 2-star is what I'm going to give him, and I think he's going to be a very solid threat, both in Vegito decks and in just decks that want to have that early threat to try to get some cards out of your opponent's hand. Next up is Double Shots Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta. This is a 3-cost, 2-red, 15,000 attacker with an auto that says at the end of the battle, after you combo with this card from your hand, if your leader card is red, play this card in rest mode. And this is just the cycle with the combo cards that you combo with and they come into play. And this is just a red version of that. It's very, very strong, and just like all the other ones are. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I think this will probably be a staple in the Vegito decks. It gives them a way to essentially play this out extremely early, and then if your opponent kills this card, you're not that bummed about it because, again, Vegito wants Vegetas and Gokus in this drop area, and so I feel like it just goes really well with the deck. And so, again, there's not really much else to say about this. I think it's a solid card. Give it a 3 stars like I did all the other cycle cards because I love this mechanic of being able to combo and, save your guy, and then, or pressure your opponent and then get a free card out of it. I think it's a perfect way to make these 1-cost 10,000 combo cards more effective and more viable. Okay. Next up, we have Leap to the Future Trunks, 3-cost, 15,000, 1-red attacker that says active main, place this card and one other card from your hand in the drop area. Choose up to 1 Gotenks with power 25,000 or less power from your deck and add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Okay, so this is similar to the Goten, and again, the Goten, and I almost say the same thing about this. A very powerful card. Tutors are awesome. This can pressure your opponent as soon as you play it, and then you can do this effect, so you get a free attack out of it. It's almost like a little burn spell. You play it out, deal damage, and then go get your guy. Again, tutors are super strong, especially tutoring for Gotenks, which is arguably one of the best battle cards in the game, and his new battle card is even better. So I would say, I'm not gonna say even better, but it's also very good. And just again, this also works really well with the Vegito card, the promo card that you need childhood Trunk or Trunks Youth and Gotenks and the drop area. So again, just a fantastic card. I'd give it a 2 stars because I feel like this is an awesome card, but again, a little limited in certain decks. All right, skip that super rare. Next up, we have Lightning Speed Vegito. Now this is a 5-cost, 1-red, 20,000 attacker that has Union Patora, 3, Son Goku, and Vegeta. Permanent, this card can attack battle cards that are in active mode. And then finally, an auto ability that says at the end of the battle, After this card attacks, place 10 cards from the top of your deck in the drop area. Then choose up to one Vegito with 25,000 power from your drop area and evolve into it by placing on top of this card in active mode. Now, this is a pretty cool card. Now, I don't think it's going to see a lot of play, but it does have a pretty, I guess, actually a pretty confusing auto ability. You know, when I read it, man, I'm just bad at reading it. But essentially, you know, what this card will do is when you attack, you take the top 10 cards of your deck, you put them in the drop area, and then you can choose one Vegito from there with 25,000 power less and put it on top of this card, you know, evolve it, and then you switch this card to active mode. So essentially you can attack with this card and then, you know, get another Vegito and attack again. Again, there's no limit of this either, so you could go get this same Vegito from your drop area and put it on top, and then, you know, attack again and then do it again. Very cool effect. Very, you know, I guess it has potential to be powerful. The downside, I think, with this effect is that, you know, milling the top 10 cards of your deck is real. It's a real powerful, it can literally make you lose the game, and it can make you lose the game very quickly. Now, so something about this game is you draw a lot of cards. So you get a lot of cards from your deck. You know, you siphon through your cards a lot, and so because of that, you know, a lot of times I win games with like 20 cards in my deck quite often, and almost every deck I play, I don't have that many cards left in my deck, and so you're not going to be able to afford to attack with this guy too much. But again, if you build a deck around this guy, you know, if you essentially put more Vegitos in your deck, or if you just play the Vegito leader, you know, this is a great way to turn that leader on his, you know, awakened side. So again, it's a neat card. I think it's pretty cool. It's neat that it can Patora for 3, so that gives you the ability to essentially get this guy out extremely fast when you still have a lot of cards in your deck. I think that it can end the game, you know, potentially, but the problem is, you know, he doesn't have double strike, he doesn't have triple strike, and so essentially if you get him out on turn 3, it's very unlikely that your opponent's going to be at a low enough life total where you can kill them with this card's effects before you just mill yourself out, essentially. So anyway, a very strong card. Going to give it 2 stars because I think there is maybe something there, but I'm not quite sold on this card just yet, and I think that the clunking type ability and essentially the Vegitos being not that great in general and outside of the Vegito decks are probably going to make this card not quite good enough. Next up, we have Ghost Attack Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. This is a 5-cost, 3 red, 20,000 attacker, which has evolved 2 red, 2 permanent. If you have 4 or less cards in your hand, this card and all your ghost tokens gain double strike. And then auto, when you play this card, play 3 ghost tokens. Those ghost tokens have 15,000 power. Now, guys, this card is absolutely insane. I think this is going to be almost as good as our green Gotenks. Now, I think the green Gotenks might be a little bit better, and it's really hard to evaluate this card without quite knowing how the ghost tokens work. And so what I mean by that, we don't know if they're going to be 0 cost. If that's the case, they die to like Bardock's and Awakened Son Goku's. You know, you just play those out and wipe all the tokens out. That makes them a little bit less viable. We also don't know what color the tokens are going to be. If they're just colorless, do they have a color? If they're red, that makes these guys even more insane because then they work with the Super Saiyan 3 promo. So, you know, the Goku promo. So, like, again, you know, we just don't know a whole lot about the ghost tokens, but taking the worst case scenario, you know, into mind, just pretend like, you know, every bad thing you can think of is true. That's how I'll evaluate this card, and it's still insane. I mean, making essentially 45,000 power worth of tokens by just playing this guy and still having double strike attached to that, and the ability to get double strike is insane to me. I mean, this guy's insane. If he does manage to get double strike and give those token double strike, there's just so much pressure you're putting on your opponent. You know, in my opinion, this is probably the best battle card we've seen spoiled, and it's only going to get better if, you know, depending on the token rulings, because again, I'm literally evaluating this at the worst case scenario, and it's still insane to me. Again, you can play this guy out, get 3 tokens, pressure your opponent's battle cards with those tokens, which, you know, that stinks for your opponent because essentially you're attacking them with tokens. So like if they, you know, stop taking damage or, you know, protect their battle cards, you're literally just essentially discarding cards out of their hand for free. And then, you know, the Gotenks himself is a real threat, which is scary. And so again, guys, this guy's insane, awesome. Probably, again, my favorite card spoiled altogether. Love Gotenks, love this card, and think I'll give him a 3-star rating for this. It's just a fantastic card. Next up, we have Prodigy Fusion Super Saiyan Gotenks. It's a 4-cost, 2 red, 15,000 attacker with Union Fusion, 1 red and 1. It says place 1 card of the specified card with the same power into your drop area and play this card. So that's Son Goten and Son Trunks Youth, you just have to take those cards, same power, put them in your drop area. If you do, you can play this card out. And he also has dual attack. This is a very strong card. Again, not as powerful as most Gotenks we've seen, so I think this makes this card seem a little bit underwhelming, because every time we've seen Gotenks in the future or in the past, it's just been this absurd card that's insane and awesome. But this card's still pretty cool. If you can, again, jump through the hoops to get this card out on turn 2, it's fantastic. It's a 15,000 dual attack, which can really put a lot of pressure on your opponent, and it's just a very good aggressive tool for those decks. But if you can't, he's still just a 4 cost, which isn't unreasonable. I mean, he's probably not very good if you play him out on 4, but the dual attack does allow you to put a lot of pressure on your opponent, which is what we really want. This seems like a more aggro-based card, but since it does have dual attack, you can use it as a control deck to kind of put pressure on your opponent's battle cards. But again, I don't see it really used too much for that. I see it more used as a really strong attacker against your opponents as an aggressive deck. It also works really well with Sensu Bean. You can put Sensu Bean on this and get a 20,000 attack each time, which just seems really neat as well. And so again, I think this is a pretty solid card. I'm going to give it 2 stars and think it's really cool. But again, I don't think it's quite as good as some of the other cards we've seen. And, for that reason, we'll give it the old 2-star. Next up, we have Mighty Mask, the Mysterious Warrior. It's a 2 cost, 1 red, 10,000 attacker. I'm going to be honest with you guys. The first time I saw this spoiler, I thought it said Mighty Max, and I was really excited because I loved Mighty Max when I was a kid. I don't know if you guys remember that because I'm like 100 years old, so you probably don't. Anyway, the card says, active main, place this card in the drop area, choose up to 1 each of, man, this wording sometimes just gets me. Choose up to 1 each of Son Goten and Trunks Youth with 15,000 or less power from your deck and add them to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Guys, this is literally a tutor for a Son Goten and a Trunks Youth for 2 on a body. Insane to me. I mean, anytime you can tutor for 2 cards. Actually, I'll say it like this. Anytime you can tutor for 1 card, it immediately makes the card, probably playable. The fact you can tutor for 2 guys with this is absolutely insane. Plus, this works really well. Let you use this, go get your 2 Son Goten and Trunks Youth. You can use the ones we talked about up top to use those to go tutor for more Gotenks. And then once you have the Son Goten and Trunks Youth in your drop area, you can also use that to, play out the Vegito. It's just such a cool synergy with a lot of different stuff that we've talked about and the other spoilers and stuff. I think this is a fantastic card, guys. Again, he has 10,000 power, and so you can even pressure your opponent with it if you want. You can play this out, maybe kill a lower power level battle card, or puts a little bit of pressure on your opponent, and then sack it and go get these 2 other threats. Super cool, guys. Love this card. Again, not really much more to say about it, and I'm going to give it 3 stars. Think it's fantastic, and this is a card that's only going to get better too as we see other Son Goten and Trunks Youth being spoiled and coming out in different sets. Next up, we have Hercule, Buu's assistant. 1 cost, 1 red, 5,000 attacker. Says when you play this card, look at up to 7 cards on the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 red Majin Buu among them and add to your hand, then shuffle your deck. The thing about this card is I like it. It's neat. It's a tutor. It's another 1 cost tutor, or 7 costs, I guess, a pseudo tutor. But honestly, there's not enough threats. There's not enough red Majin Buu to make this, I think, playable. I think if it just said go look and get a Majin Buu, this card would be awesome because you could use it to go get a blue Buu, which would be super cool. And maybe they thought that maybe would be too powerful and decided not to do that. But again, I think as is, this card just doesn't have enough threats. There are Buu, and we'll talk about them coming up. But again, I mean, playing your 1 cost to go get like a 7 cost Buu just doesn't seem good enough to me. We also have like a 10 cost Buu, which you don't want to go search out your deck anyway. And so I just feel like it's a little clunky, and it might get better as the sets come on. Maybe there'll be some other Buus we'll see. So I do always recommend getting a play set of these tutors because I think they're so cool and they have potential to be broken. But this guy currently, I'm going to give him a 1 star, which I hate to do since he's a tutor, or I guess a pseudo tutor. But I just don't think he has a good enough targets to be played. And I think even if you are playing the Buu type deck, I don't think that you'll really want to use this card to go search out those Buus. But maybe I'm wrong. Again, I don't have a lot of experience with the Buu card, so again, maybe he's a 2-star, but again, I wouldn't put him any higher than that. Next up is Videl, Gohan's partner. 2 cost, 2 red, 5,000 attacker. She has blocker, and she has the permanent. If Son Gohan Adolescence is in your battle area or leader area, you can play this card from your hand without paying its energy cost. And the guys, this is another cycle that we've seen in all the other colors, which it has some permanent that you have to do. Usually it's X person. If he's in your battle or leader area, then you can play this for free. In this case, it's Son Gohan Adolescence. I hate to sound like it was like whatever. Like, I just don't think these guys are that good. I'm sorry, guys. I've said this every time. I've talked about it in depth in my other videos. I just feel like blockers aren't good enough in their current state unless they have something else to make you be worth playing out that blocker. So, for example, with Goldos, you know, he play him out, and you can pressure your opponent's battle cards with him. And so a lot of times you can make your opponent either have to lose a card or protect his card whenever you play out Goldo, and that makes it even, right? And then you have a blocker, which is really cool. But this guy, you know, with Videl, you play her out, and then you just block, and that's it. So you just use a card to stop an attack. I hear people talk about it all the time. Well, that's the same thing negates do. It's not the same thing negates do, because negates cannot be killed on the field. You know, if you play this person out and then they play out, like, you know, Bardock or, you know, something, you know, even their Goldo or whatever, and just kill this, then, like, you don't get that block. You literally just discard a card out of your hand. And so I think blockers are too vulnerable. I think there's already blocker hate in the game, and if they ever get prevalent, then you just put that hate into your deck and beat it. And so I just really feel like blockers have to do something else when they come into play. They have to have some kind of value, because they don't give value innately on their card. And to make them survive, you have to use more and more cards, and you just more and more card disadvantage. And for all those reasons, I'm going to give Videl a 1-star. I think that she is not quite good enough. I think most blockers aren't good enough, so don't take a personal, Videl. But I think that, you know, there are some in this set. They've done a really good job in this set by making some of them very powerful. Okay. Next up, we have Foreseeing East Supreme Kai. 2 cost, 1 red, 10,000 attacker with blocker. Same thing. Again, not strong enough to get through your leader's attack. And so literally your opponent can just attack with the leader and you block it. You just use the card to stop your opponent's attack, which, you know, counters can do, and they can do it without getting, you know, I guess killed. So that's my opinion. If you're really worried about early aggression, just put more negates in your deck. Don't put blockers like this in your deck. Now, one thing I will talk about this guy real quick. He is a god, and so he does work with the priest deck that we've been talking about. He works with the Beerus priest deck or whatever, and so I'm sure he'll probably see play just because of that. I don't think that's probably where that deck wants to go anyway. I'm kind of thinking that deck's probably just a mono deck, but anyway, you know, I think this card could see play because he's a god, so I'm going to give him again 1 star. I hate saying, you know, that I think he'll see play and then immediately give him a 1-star, but I think that there's just better gods to choose from, and I don't think this guy will see play in that capacity. But if he does, you know, that's awesome. So next up, we have, oh my goodness, Kibito. Anyway, Kibito. 2 cost, 1 red, 15,000 attacker. I love how I always say the names like 3 different ways just to see if I get lucky and hit it the right way one time. But anyway, this is just a 2 cost, 15,000 attacker. He's a god. He might see play in the god deck. Again, I doubt it. So for that reason, I'm going to give him a 1-star. Not spend too much time on this guy. So let's get to the next page here. Next up is Sensing Old Kai. 1 cost, 1 red, 5,000. That has a pretty unique auto ability. It says at the beginning of your main phase, look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 Miraculous Comeback Ultimate Gohan among them and add it to your hand. Then place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. Now this is pretty cool because this is essentially a Bulma, but to go get a specific card and not necessarily you know, any kind of Whis or whatever like Bulma does. Now, the card that it lets you go get is the super rare Gohan that we've talked about, which is a fantastic, super powerful card. And so I think, you know, there might be I guess a deck that would want to run this guy and just go get that Gohan and play him out early, because you can play him out very early if you can get cards out of your hand. So he's the card that you can play out at 4 if you only have 4 or less cards in your hand. Maybe it's less than that. No, it's 2. You can play them out at 2 if you have 4 or less cards in your hand. There's too many 4s in there. So very strong card, and it's really neat that you can go search him out. And so I actually think this card's going to see a lot of play. I think that Gohan's going to see a lot of play. I think they allow a burn deck to kind of emerge, which I think is super cool. And I've talked a little bit about it on my super rare video, and I'll probably, you know, show a deck tech eventually about it. But so I think this card's actually really good. I'm going to give it a 2-star because I think that it's pretty limited. Like, you have to run it in that kind of deck. It is a god, but I feel like you're never going to run it in the god deck because it doesn't do anything in the god deck because a Gohan isn't like a god or anything. So I think very strong card. I think these decks are going to run, you know, maybe 4 of them just so you can go get your Gohan, and then you just dump these guys out to combo so you can like put your hand back down to 4 and you can take advantage of Gohan's ability. So really cool card. I love it. Again, it's a tutor too, so just amazing card. Next up, we have Mind Controlling Bibbidi. This is a 6 cost, 2 red, 10,000 attacker. With the auto, when you play this card, look up to 7 cards on the top of your deck. Choose up to 2 red battle cards among them with 25,000 or less power, other than Evil Wizard Bibbidi. Unfortunately, you can't chain it on himself. And play them, then shuffle your deck. So this is a really cool card. This lets you essentially look at the top 7 cards, pick 2 25,000 guys, put him into play. Extremely powerful. Now, the one downside of this guy is that he's only a 10,000 attacker, and so, you know, he's not going to put a lot of pressure on your opponent by the time you play this, I would imagine, right? Also, you know, he does cost 6, so that's a little steep, but honestly, if you go get like 2/5 cost, you've just got 10 energy worth of guys out of 6. And I'm sorry, yeah. Well, actually, you would count the 6 from him too. So if you wouldn't got 2/5 costs, you would get essentially 16 energy worth of battle cards for just 6, which seems extremely efficient to me, and I love it. I think it's fine. So I think this card's super cool. I have a lot of ideas about this card. I can't wait to share about you guys. Let's share with you guys. And so for all those reasons, I'm gonna give this guy a 3-star. I think he's absolutely fantastic, and he's gonna see a lot of play in a lot of different types of decks. Next up, we have Deborah, the Wizard's Right Hand. This is a 3-cost, 3-red, 20,000 attacker that has permanent. If this card is in rest mode, the opponent cannot attack Evil Wizard Bibbidi. Now, this is extremely, how do I say this? This is a very troubling word for me, because essentially what this does is it makes it so if this guy's in rest mode, you can't attack your opponent, which can really lead to some bad interactions. Now, I don't think it will with this set. I think that there's plenty of ways to deal with this guy, and I'm not too worried about it. But what I am worried about is in the future, if there's ways to protect this guy. And honestly, the Bibbidi decks currently can run like, they can run Crusher Balls, they can run Sensu Beans, they can run, you know, a lot of things to make this guy extremely powerful and protect him. And then that's really going to sting for you, right? You're going to not be able to attack your leader, your opponent's leader. But again, Bibbidi's pretty weak. So remember, you know, Bibbidi is a 10,000 power on both sides. And so again, I think it might be okay, but this effect is very troubling to me because it does lead to a potential of just abusing it and find a way to make it so he doesn't die, or use blockers to make sure they can't get through him, or even attack him at all. And then if that happens, you know, you're essentially deadlocked. You can't attack your opponent's leader, and you know he's eventually just going to win the game through other various means. So the ability, very, very strong. However, he is limited to being played with only Evil Wizard Bibbidi to get his effect. But again, I think this is a super strong card, something that you guys should be aware of. And if you're going to play that Bibbidi deck, maybe try to find a way to abuse this guy and make him extremely strong. And for those reasons, I'm going to give him 2 stars and think he's actually really cool, but kind of scary. Very scary for me from a design perspective. Next up is Attendance. Oh my gosh, Spavich and Yamu. Jeez, I know that's wrong. 2 red, 2 cost, 2 red, 15,000 attacker. Auto, when this card attacks, place up to 1 card from the top of your deck under your Majin Buu Sil Ball. Again, this is just an enabler for the Majin Buu ball, the Majin Buu's ball decks, which is like the Bibbidi leader. Again, super cool. I like that, you know, he does that. The downside is though that you have to attack. You know, you have to attack with this card, and so other decks can kind of take advantage of that by making sure that you have to attack their leader. They just won't attack with any of their stuff, and for you to get this effect, you're gonna have to kind of start awakening them, which is scary when you're playing Bibbidi because you only have 10,000 power on both sides, so you really don't want your opponent to awaken. And so it's gonna be really weird how you take advantage of this. But if you can attack into battle cards with this card, then I think it's gonna be very efficient and kind of do its job correctly. And so again, for those reasons, I'm gonna give this guy a 1 star. I don't feel like that deck is very good. But I even feel like if you're going to build that deck, there's probably a better way to build it without, you know, really worrying too much about the Sil Ball. I think with just Bibbidi's Awakened side, you're going to be able to use the ball, you know, eventually anyway. So I don't think this card is needed, and that's why I'm giving it 1 star. Next up, we have that's a super rare again. We have Prodigy Absorption Majin Buu. Now, this is a 6 cost, 2 red, 25,000 attacker that has Evolve 3 and 2 on a Gotenks. It says double strike, and it says permanent. If Gotenks is under this card, and if there are no cards in your opponent's combo area, this card cannot be KO'd. Very, very strong ability. Now, this guy essentially can come out on 5 on a Gotenks. Now, remember, this isn't restricted to colors. It doesn't have to be a red Gotenks. So you can use this on the green Gotenks, which is extremely powerful and honestly still probably one of the best battle cards in the game. Now, if you do that, you still keep the 25,000 attack. You still get double strike, but you get this really cool permanent that says as long as, you know, they're not comboing, you know, he can't be killed. And so that's pretty powerful because what that allows you to do is really put a lot of pressure on your opponent. And what the only way they can essentially kill this card after you put pressure on him is by attacking him and then comboing to kill him. And that's very scary for your opponent because what happens is this card can put a lot of pressure on your opponent. It can make them discard multiple cards out of their hand in order to to survive, and then they have to attack your guy and use another card just to get this guy off the field, and you can still make him survive, right? So you can still be like, I'll make him survive. So you just combo for no reason. Cool. Next turn, I'll just do the same thing, keep pressure on you, and that's very powerful. And that's what this game needs to move to. I've talked about it a lot. I'll probably do a Meta Monday on it eventually, but essentially this kind of back and forth kind of control strategy, where essentially you play something out, they use a card to stop it from doing something like Cold Ballast or Crusher Ball, or even just let it come out, attack you, and then they play like a Beerus, kill it, and next turn they'll play like a Vegeta, kill your next threat, and then play like another Beerus, kill your next threat. And it's turning into this thing where it's really hard to get tempo against those decks because they just always have a threat with a kill spell, so they always have tons of card value. And this guy shuts that down, right? They can't use like Beerus, they can't use those type of effects to kill him, and that's super neat, and I think it's needed in the game, and I'm very excited to see it in the deck. And for those reasons, I'm going to give it a 3-star. I think this is a fantastic card, and only makes the Gotenks cards even better. Okay. Next up, we have Awakening Evil Majin Buu. Now, this is a 5-cost, 2 red, 25,000 attacker with Evolve 2 red on a Majin Buu. And then, wait. Yeah, okay, so I misread that. It's 2, and then it has to be a red Majin Buu. So it has to be on a, okay, I thought it was 2 and a red, which would make it 3 red. I'm sorry. So it's 2 red, and it has to be on a red Majin Buu. Union Zord, place 1 battle card from your hand under this card. Choose up to 1 Majin Buu other than Awakening Evil Majin Buu of 25,000 power or more from your deck and place it on top of this card. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Jeez, man, this card just wrecked me. Oh my gosh, I mean, if it's half as good as it is, destroying me reading it, then it's going to be one of the best cards in the game. Holy crap. So one more time, this has Evolve, 2 red. It has to be on a red Majin Buu. And then it has place 1 card from your hand under this card. Choose up to 1 Majin Buu other than this with 25,000 or more power from your deck and place it on top of this card. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Holy crap. So this is like the Cell version of Majin Buu. That's essentially, does the same thing Cell does. It's a very, powerful card. Again, you're not going to get a lot out of it though. And so if, for example, you play this out, most of the red Majin Buus we've seen, aren't that cheap. So you're not going to be able to do it super quick. When you do it, you're just going to get a 25,000 attacker. That's it. For 2 red, which is good. But again, I'd much rather play the 6 cost we just talked about, and evolve that on Gotenks than I would play this guy. I don't think this guy's very good. I think he's extremely hard to read and made me look like an idiot, but I don't think he's going to be that good of a card. And for that reason, I'm going to give him 1 star. Plus, I'm a little salty at him just because he just made me look like an idiot. So next up is Majin Buu Revived. We have 10 cost, 4 red, 20,000 attacker with double strike, and auto when you play this card with the skill of Majin Buu's Sealed Ball, inflict 1 damage to your opponent's life. Now, this guy I think is very interesting. I think his effect is very powerful. However, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on him because I covered him a lot when I talked about the Bibbidi leader and the Majin Buu Sealed Ball and the earlier spoiler videos. I think he is very strong, very powerful. I think that he's not going to be good enough because I think he costs 10. I think that if the ball didn't cost 10, he would be fine, but the ball does cost 10, so you're never going to get more than 1 off in a game, in my opinion. And for that reason, I just think this guy just isn't going to be good enough. But again, even if he was good enough, it's kind of a moot point because you're never going to play this guy out, right? You have to play him out with the Buu's ball to make him at all even close to worth it. And so by analyzing him as a card, he's essentially unplayable. You just can't play him like this. And for that reason, I'm going to give him a 1 star. Don't think he's quite good enough. But I think if you pair him with the ball, he could be good enough. As maybe a 1 of or 2 of. You just really don't want this guy in your hand. You don't want to accidentally draw this guy and be like, well, there you go. I can't use this ball's effect, or you don't want him in your life. Things like that. So he has a potential to whiff. It's just a very awkward card. All right, guys. So that's it for the red spoilers for the battle cards. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'm so sorry once again for being so late on these videos. It's 100% my fault. Again, I got overwhelmed with family visiting, plus the delay on the spoilers just in general, and tournaments this weekend. I just had so much stuff on my plate and just, essentially got overwhelmed. So I'm sorry, but I'm happy I can bring them out to you guys now. And I literally just released all of them at one time. I think there's like 5, 6 videos, something like that. And so you guys have tons of content to look at. So I hope that made up for the wait. I hope the wait was worth it. So guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have a chance, make sure you check us out Wednesday on the Supercast. We're going to have a special guest that I'm very excited to share with you guys. I think you guys will have a super fun time watching it, and I think you guys don't want to miss it. So you can watch it at 10 o'clock Eastern Time on Twitch. The link is down below. It's KitchenTableMeta on Twitch. So come check us out. And guys, have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time.